All right, so are you ready to head back to Prithian?
Always up for a good Prithian adventure.
Perfect. Because today we're diving deep into a court of frost and starlight.
Ooh, interesting choice. We're focusing on Fairies Valeris just a few months after the war with Highburn, right?
You got it. The city's rebuilding, and Feyre, High Lady of the Night Court, is adjusting, or trying to, at least.
Well, and that's the big question, isn't it? How is she adjusting? It's peacetime, but we know peace doesn't always equal tranquility, especially after everything they've been through.
Right. And that's what makes this book so fascinating. We get to see Feyre grapple with the lingering trauma of war, the weight of leadership.
It's complex. And Maas doesn't shy away from those complexities. PTSD, anxiety, it's all there, woven into Feyre's story. It's a reminder that even the most powerful High Fae are still vulnerable.
Absolutely. Take the opening scene, for example. Feyre's looking out at the falling snow, and instead of feeling that sense of wonder, you know that magical moment.
Which we totally expect from a Sarah J. Maas book, right?
Exactly. But instead, she's hit with this wave of anxiety.
It's jarring, especially because snow used to be a source of fear for Feyre, tied to those horrible memories of the Spring Court. But now it's different. It's intertwined with Rhysand, their love story.
It should be magical.
It should be. But her fear, that deep-seated dread, it lingers.
It's heartbreaking because it's not just the snow. Throughout the book, we see Feyre plagued by nightmares, flashbacks of the war, even moments of paralyzing panic. And this is in Valeris, the city that's supposed to be her sanctuary, her safe haven.
And that's where Maz's portrayal of PTSD is so powerful, so relatable, I think. It underscores the fact that trauma doesn't just disappear because the danger has passed. It stays with you, and it can manifest in unexpected ways.
And it can impact anyone. It doesn't discriminate. Here you have Feyre, this powerful, high fae warrior, struggling with the invisible wounds of war.
Precisely. It's a powerful message about mental health, and one that I think resonates deeply with readers.
For sure. And Maas doesn't just tell us about Feyre's struggles, she shows us. That scene where Feyre stumbles upon the ruins of the bakery in the rainbow.
Oh gosh, yes. That scene always gets me. The rainbow, this vibrant, bustling part of Valeris, and nestled amongst all that life and color are the ruins of a place that once brought people joy.
It's a gut punch. A stark reminder that even though the war is over, its scars run deep.
Absolutely. And I think that experience, that rawness, it shapes how Feyre approaches leadership. Don't you?
100%. It's clear that her own experiences, her vulnerability, make her more empathetic to the struggles of her people. She's not some distant ruler, detached from their pain.
Not at all. You can see that empathy in how she throws herself into the rebuilding efforts, visiting families, distributing supplies, getting her hands dirty. Literally, it's a very hands-on approach.
Very different from the more, shall we say, traditional styles of leadership we see in other courts.
To say the least. But that's what makes Feyre so compelling as a leader. She leads with both her head and her heart, and she's not afraid to get into the trenches with her people. She's right there with them.
Totally. But it's not easy, is it? You see her grappling with the weight of responsibility, the pressure to alleviate suffering, to rebuild, and to do it all quickly.
It's a lot. And it's something that many leaders, both fictional and real, struggle with, right? Finding that balance between addressing immediate needs and working towards a long-term vision, all while trying to cultivate hope.
It's a tough line to walk. And in the midst of all that, remember, she's also on her own personal healing journey. That's where her painting comes in.
Ah, yes. Art as a form of therapy. Yeah. Always love that theme. It's so powerful.
It is. And we really see it come alive in this book. Remember how back in the Spring Court, painting was her escape, her way of clinging to beauty? It's like that part of her, that creative spark, was almost extinguished.
Totally. And now it's back. It's like the trauma, as strange as it sounds, has unlocked a door within her, a way to confront the darkness.
And she doesn't shy away from it either. Remember those intense scenes of her painting in that abandoned gallery?
So vivid. There's this raw, almost desperate energy in her brushstrokes, as if she's pouring every ounce of pain, every fear, every doubt onto the canvas, trying to make sense of it all.
Exactly. And what really struck me was her painting of the Ouroboros.
The serpent devouring its own tail. Talk about symbolism. That's a powerful image, right?
So powerful. And for Feyre, I think it represents that internal battle, the way trauma can feel like this never-ending cycle.
It's like she's externalizing her struggles, giving them a shape, a form, giving them a voice through her art.
Exactly. And that's what makes A Court of Frost and Starlight so compelling. It's like she's taking back control, you know? Not letting those inner demons consume her.
Exactly. And speaking of confronting darkness, there's another powerful scene we haven't touched on yet. It involves a gift.
Oh, you're talking about the solstice gift.
Rhysand's gift to Feyre.
Okay, so when I read that part, I literally gasped. I mean, we all know Rhysand is the king of thoughtful gestures.
Understatement.
Right, but this was next level. It wasn't just a beautiful dress. It was made by his mother.
His mother, who we know poured her heart and soul into her craft, every stitch imbued with love.
And he gives that to Feyre,
knowing how much she'd treasure it.
It's so incredibly symbolic.
And his words, don't even get me started on his words, she would have loved you.
Oh my God, the tears. Just thinking about it.
Right. So simple, but so powerful.
It's like he's saying, you're one of us, Feyre. You're family.
Exactly. He's welcoming her into the fold, honoring his mother's memory by sharing something so precious with the woman he loves. Talk about a gift that speaks to the soul.
Seriously. It's beautiful, but, you know, amidst all the personal growth and heartwarming moments, there's this undercurrent of tension, wouldn't you say? Hints of danger lurking on the horizon.
Oh, absolutely. We can't forget that A Court of Frost and Starlight isn't just about individual healing. It's about rebuilding an entire society after a devastating war.
And peace, as we see, is a fragile thing.
Very fragile. We see it most clearly with the unrest brewing in the Illyrian camps.
Which feels like a ticking time bomb, right?
Totally. It underscores the fact that even when a war ends, the embers of conflict can linger, ready to ignite.
And it's like, every time Rhysand and Feyre clear one obstacle, another one pops up. Remember that line from Asriel toward the end of the book? He's reporting to Rhysand about the escalating issues in the Illyrian camps, and he says...
Oh, I remember. Something like, our world might very well depend on it.
Chills? Chills every time. Talk about ominous foreshadowing.
Right. It sets the stage for the conflicts that erupt later in the series.
Okay, so speaking of things that are brewing, can we talk about Cassian for a second?
Oh, Cassian. Our favorite warrior with a heart of gold.
Because we see a different side of him in this book, don't we?
Definitely. There's this interesting duality to him. On the one hand, he's this fierce, loyal warrior. But beneath that gruff exterior...
So softy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's never more apparent than in his interactions with Nesta.
Their dynamic is everything. I mean, talk about sexual tension. You can cut it with a knife.
Right. But it's also so much more than that. It's clear there's a deep connection there, a spark. But Nesta, she's guarded, holding everyone at arm's length.
Understandably so.
Of course. But watching Cassian chip away at those walls, so good.
It's a slow burn for sure. But even with all the frustration, you see how much Cassian cares, how protective he is of her.
Totally. And it's not just Nesta. Remember when he buys all those winter supplies from Emery's shop?
And asks her to distribute them amongst the less fortunate Illyrians?
Yes. It's such a small act, but so telling. Cassian might have a gruff exterior, but he genuinely cares about his people, especially those who are struggling.
And speaking of looking out for his people, he doesn't shy away from challenging the status quo. That scene where he confronts Devlon about empowering Illyrian women.
Yes. It's like, hello, time to evolve.
Right. He's advocating for their right to train and fight alongside the men. Cassian for High King.
Maybe one day. But yeah, you can see how his influence, his progressive thinking, is slowly shifting things.
And speaking of shifts, we also get a glimpse into Elaine's potential in this book. What do you make of her?
Ooh, Elaine. She's an enigma, isn't she? She's often quiet, reserved.
Some might even say meek.
Right. But there's this underlying strength to her, a steeliness that peeks through, especially when she feels passionately about something.
Like when she stands up to Amren.
Yes. She refuses to be intimidated, even by Amren's considerable power and sharp tongue. Elaine knows her mind, doesn't back down. I love that about her. And then there's that quiet but loaded scene at the solstice dinner. You know the one I'm talking about?
With Amren, how can I forget?
Amren, in a rare moment of, I guess you could say, vulnerability, asks Elaine if she's ever wondered about Amren's past, or even her own future for that matter.
Okay, so chills. Because we know Amren, right? She does not open up like that.
Exactly. And Elaine, instead of shying away, she meets Amren's gaze head on.
It's such a small act, but it speaks volumes. Like, don't underestimate me.
Right. There's a hidden strength there, a quiet power that even Amren seems to acknowledge.
It makes you wonder, what does the future hold for Elaine?
The possibilities are endless. Maas is definitely dropping hints, I think, that Elaine's story is far from over.
Agreed. Okay, but before we get too caught up in theories, I want to circle back to something we were talking about earlier. Feyre's art.
And how it connects to her leadership.
Exactly. Because it's more than just a hobby for her, right? It's this powerful form of therapy, a way to process her trauma, but
there's a bigger purpose emerging, isn't there?
yes. And I think it comes into focus during her visit with the Weaver.
The weaver who creates those incredible fabrics, void and hope.
The one and only. So Feyre asks her, how do you do it? How do you create when your heart is breaking?
After losing her husband, yeah. And the weaver's answer. So simple, yet so profound.
I create because I must.
Goosebumps. Every single time.
It's like this primal need to express, to heal, to find meaning, even in the face of unimaginable pain.
And for Feyre, who's carrying the weight of an entire city on her shoulders, I think that realization is a turning point.
100%. It's like a light bulb moment for her. She realizes that art isn't just about personal expression, it's a way to connect with others, to help them heal.
And to rebuild. Remember her idea. To open a free art studio in Velaris.
Genius. A place where anyone, regardless of their background or their past, can come to create, to heal, to find solace.
It's more than just a studio, though, isn't it? It's a symbol of hope. A testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Or, well, Fey spirit in this case.
Right. And it's all thanks to Feyre's willingness to confront her own darkness, to embrace her art as a source of strength, not just for herself, but for her people, which I think speaks volumes about her evolution as a leader, as a high lady.
Agreed. It's about recognizing that true strength lies not just in physical power, but in compassion, empathy, and the courage to be vulnerable.
Perfectly said. And that's what makes A Court of Frost and Starlight so powerful. It reminds us that even in the face of unimaginable darkness, there's always hope, always a spark of light waiting to be ignited.
And sometimes all it takes is a brushstroke, a word, a gesture, to set that light ablaze and illuminate the path forward.
Couldn't said it better myself. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. For now, anyway.